Support Pro Play Games on Patreon.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy Yeehaw Yadam, and we're watching some Battle Spirits Saga gameplay on the PPG channel. What a day to be alive. So, Battle Spirits came out last week. Really interesting game. I'm super new to it, so hopefully my commentary is able to encompass what these games are. We're just going to do a little gameplay versus where we have George Machado playing his mono white aggro versus Fernando's take on red white control, using red as a defensive option, and then going ahead and using the turtle and the elephant in conjunction to control his opponent. So George starting off with the Nexus Fortress of the Seal Leaf. So basically a Nexus is just kind of like a white permanent, and white permanents or permanents in general are really good in this game because it makes the other cards in your hand significantly cheaper, right? So the Fortress of the Seal Leaves, by it being a Nexus, also has a kind of cool effect that if you have a burst card set and your spirits kind of get destroyed, you can go ahead and bounce your opponent's spirits, which is really nice. But I think George just played it up as a setup for his following turn. As you can see here, by having one white permanent, he is able to summon the Mecha Winged Duck for free, which then puts two white permanents that allows him to summon the Satellite Falcons for free. So he's basically able to set up three really quickly. Now the Satellite Falcons, they're vanillas, and the Mecha Winged Duck doesn't really do much, even though it has an effect that says like during your opponent's attack step, when one of your opponent's spirit returns to the hand or deck, place a core from your void onto this spirit. That's all nice and dandy, but what's really nice is a free card that just can attack with haste. So in Battle Spirits, all the spirits that get summoned have haste, and the point of the game is just to exhaust your opponent's life all the way down to 0. So you start with 5 life, and if you go down to 0, the game kind of ends. Every time you take a life, a card is moved or a core is moved from your life into your reserve, which kind of ramps you for your following turns. As you can see here, George went ahead and swung the duck and then both of the falcons, giving Fernando 3 extra reserve, which then allows him to play the ice shields from his hand as a flash effect, stopping the battle step. Now, yeah, a lot of things just happened there, but pretty easy to keep up. He swung it in, gave Fernando the mana to then play the ice shield and then basically stop the battle step. Not that one more attack would have made too much of a difference if the Pegasion was attacking or not, but we're just in a very tricky spot. The really cool thing is that there is an ebb and flow in this game, that as you attack your opponent, they gain more cores, and by gaining more cores, they gain the ability to do more things. Very Digimon-esque in the fact that like when you summon something big, you give your opponent more opportunities to do big things. So the bigger your turn, or the more explosive your turn, the more you think that your opponent can do on the following. So Fernando's going to go ahead and play a Tyrannoid here, which is just a vanilla that states that if you have 2 or less characters or spirits on the board, he becomes a little bit bigger. So really nice. Going to be able to block through George's spirits very easily, and then he sets up a card in the burst zone. Now the burst zone is something kind of unique to Battle Spirits. You would kind of say it's something analogous to the trap card zone in Yu-Gi-Oh! But you have one burst zone where basically you can play a magic burst card that lets you activate in that zone, like the Ice Shield, Dream Bomb. There's obviously a bunch of options in the game, but those are the ones that we expect to see in Fernando's deck. So they're very defensive, and we kind of have to play around these defensive options. Let's see where we go from here. So from a number standpoint, it seems like George is significantly in the lead here, right? He has 5 dudes on the board, and then Fernando only has 2, meaning he doesn't have enough blockers to stop this lethal. But George is kind of trying to play around what the burst card is. So he goes ahead and plays the Fortress God Knight Odin Type X. Really cool Gundam dude. By sacking both of his falcons, he's able to convert their cores onto the Odin, which gives him a level 3. Level 3 is going to go ahead and say, when attacking, you can bounce a spirit of a cost of 3 or lower to your opponent's hand. So he's going to bounce the Flamefish, and he's going to block with the Tyrannoid. And then when he goes ahead and swings here with the Pegasion, if he's able to just connect these 2 attacks, the game should just end. So he swings in with the duck, he takes the core, and then he's going to go ahead and that's going to trigger the Dream Bomb. Speaking of, the Dream Bomb's going to go ahead and burst, which basically says select one of your opponent's nexuses and return it to their hand. Then all the burst cards say, then if you want, you can pay the full price of the spell to do the main effect as well. So he's going to probably pay the full effect to bounce the Pegasion and stop lethal from happening here. So we're going to go ahead and pay those cores, and we're basically going to bounce the whole board to George's hand. Yeah, so we're going to bounce the Pegasion and the Fortress. So that's going to go ahead and wrap up George's turn. Back to Fernando. He has a ton of cores to work with and kind of a clean board, so looking pretty nice. Looking pretty clean. He does have to pay the upkeep cost of the Tyrannoid here, so you have to keep playing that 1 core turn. And now the Tyrannoid can eat the duck if he so chooses, but he opts not to. He goes ahead and summons the Big Bad Turtle now. The Big Bad Turtle is called Armored Dragon Ship Enterprise, and this is one of like the god cards of Fernando's deck. So the deck kind of wants to revolve around summoning this or the elephant. The turtle states it has armor from purple, red, and white, which says that all red, purple, and white cards can just not affect this dude. Really, really cool. As well as the fact that if you can make it a level 2, so you can have 2 cores on it. It basically says that when this spirit blocks, you can refresh it so it can block once again. And then also if you get it to 3 cores, which at that point, Mamma Mia, all of your spirits gain armor from red, purple, and white, which makes all the dudes you summon, all the spirits, just immune to George's entire deck. So George is going to go ahead, and now he only has 1 white permanent in the Mecha Wing Duck, so he's going to allow him to go and reduce the Pegason by 1, so he's going to have to pay 3 costs for this, then pay another 3 for the Snowflaken. Now Snowflaken, just another aggressive tool. He's going to play the Valkyrie's Miss. Valkyrie's Miss is going to go ahead and bounce the Tyrannoid. He's going to choose to trigger the draw. So this is one of the other bursts that's in Fernando's deck, the Straw Blessed Draw, which basically says when you summon a spirit, you can go ahead and draw 2. It's going to not be able to draw the cards that he needs. And because he tapped out to play the elephant, he just doesn't have as much defense to stop the lethal this turn. And that's going to wrap up game 1. Let's see what happens in game 2. Alright, so now I think these guys just finished setting up. It's up to Fernando, since he did take the L in game 1, to decide if he wants to go first or second. Now, being the control deck, I think you might want to go first just to try to set up a blocker. Fernando did have a really solid start last game with the Flame Fish, but by deciding to attack with it, he kind of lost all defensive pressure that the fish gives him. But this game, he starts off with the Volcanic Canyon, which is a Nexus that we didn't see last game. Now, Volcanic Canyon basically says on your draw step, draw an additional card, and then discard a card to your trash, which is really nice. Basically, it gets you some more filter in a deck that really he has to see specific cards to win the game. It's a really nice Nexus to have and kind of ramps you slowly. George liked that play so much that he played his own Nexus, again starting off with the Fortress of Steel Leaves once again, which gonna reduce the cost of his automatic gunner, which will then come down for free. Really, really solid. So we're gonna go ahead and see the Volcanic Canyon. Gonna draw him a card, discard a Dream Bomb. He's gonna go ahead and play another Volcanic Canyon for another 4. Reduce this time, and then he'll be able to summon the Tyrannoid now for a cost of 1, as he has 2 red permanents on the board. So that's kind of a nice little interaction, that the red cards kind of just keep reducing the red cards, although I believe the majority of Fernando's deck is white. Now it's going to go back to George's turn. He doesn't really, again, it's the beginning of the game, not much has happened, so there's not a lot of cores available on each side, but Fernando has 2 really solid Nexuses. The issue is George's Nexus kind of counters them pretty heavily. The Fortress basically, like, again, if one of his spirits goes ahead and is destroyed, you can just keep bouncing the canyons, which is very, very powerful. So speaking of which, he's going to go summon the Bullet Ray down for the cost of 1, and that's going to go ahead and reduce the Valkyrie's Miss by a total cost of 3, coming down for another 1, bouncing the Tyrannoid. So he's going to go ahead and swing with the Gunner, ramp a core, and then he's deciding if he wants to swing with the Bullet Ray, or if he wants to trigger the burst. Opts not to trigger the burst. Goes all the way down to 1. Very, very scary. So it's like the second attack step of the game, and Fernando's already, almost dead. Very these aggro decks in this game are very aggressive. They can just vomit their entire hand and then turn sideways. So if you're not equipped to deal with that defense, you're gonna have a bad time. I'm not sure if there's any healing cards in Fernando's deck, because being at 1 is way scarier than being at 2. If he's able to, chill at 2 life, he'd be a lot more capable of dealing with the aggression. But at 1 life, any attack goes through, and the game just ends. So what is nice, though, and is a coping mechanism that we can have, is the fact that we have Volcanic Canyon. Volcanic Canyon is going to go ahead and let us draw 2 more cards and cycle for better cards into our hand. So we're going to go ahead and discard a Star Blessed Draw, as well as a Burning Force here. We're really not going to do much. We're going to need a lot of spirits here in order to deal with the opponent's spirits. On the bright side, we got a lot of cores. We got a lot of cores going on. Core gaming. and the Tyrannoid comes back for a cost of 1 core, 1 upkeep. And then what does he do from here? Oh boy. We're just going to put cores on everything. Coring it up. Corey's in the house. So by placing our cores on everything, although that makes it seem like we've tapped out, right? Quote unquote tapped out. The fact that in this game you can pay your cores from anywhere on your board is really, really nice. So those cores in the Volcanic Canyon basically just say all your spirits gain 1000 battle power. So that Tyrannoid is humongous. Humongous. He's going to go ahead and swing in with the Valkyrie Mist, try to lethal here. He's going to go ahead and block. And now that's unfortunately going to go ahead and bounce the Volcanic Canyon. Again, see, this is why the Fortress of the Steel Leaves is so absolutely powerful. And then he's going to go ahead and swing in with the Automatic Gunner, which is going to go ahead and trigger the Suppression from Fernando's side. Now, Suppression basically says that one of your characters can block while they're already exhausted, which is what he's there. He's rested. So he's going to go ahead and block once again, which is going to trigger the Fortress, which is not once per turn, and bounce the other Volcanic Canyon. So even though we were able to stop or prevent ourselves from losing, we have not really achieved a better game state. We bought ourselves a turn though, PogChamp. And as long as we can keep buying turns, I think we should be fine. So George does have only 2 cards in hand. He will have 3 at the start of his next turn. Hopefully those 3 cards aren't characters and they're just useless cards, right? That'd be great. Be really, really 10 out of 10. We're gonna go ahead and place a handmade, the Head Ice Maid Fula. Head Ice Maid Fula basically says that your cores can now be removed from your cards, which is really, really nice when you're trying to, place cores aggressively as defensive options. And then if you want to pay, like for a suppression or something, they can't really remove the cores and like make it so that that's unavailable to you. It's really, really nice. He's gonna go ahead and play an Automatic Gunner for free. Pegasion, just dump that hand. And he's going to go swinging in with the Gunner. I'm going to go ahead and block with the Fulla. He's going to swing with his own Fulla, block with the Tyrannoid, swing with the Bullet Ray for game, and then he's probably going to have another suppression here. If not, the game just ends. Something. I need some sort of flash spell. And it is another suppression. I actually really like this card. This card is really solid. The way that it defends is really, really nice. So it's going to go ahead and trigger onto the Tyrannoid. Tyrannoid's going to be humongous, 5,000, just going to eat the Pegasion. And he basically just ripped George's entire hand and board apart as George went for a lethal there. He's going to go back to Fernando's turn. He draws, and he has a bunch of cards in his hand. George is aware that 2 of them are Volcanic Canyons. So even though it does look like he has a lot of cards in his disposal, 2 of them are kind of useless. And he goes ahead and does the same thing that he did game 1. He opts to take this turn to go ahead and summon a big boy. Summoning the Elephant, the Mecha Beast Fortress Namengard. So Namengard, super cool card. Basically says that when this card is destroyed by an opponent, you just draw 3 and ramp 3 cores, which is really, really nice. I don't know how much draw power necessarily matters in this game, as he's kind of like in a game of a battle of attrition with George at this point in time. He needs cards on the board, and the cards in hand doesn't matter. But Fernando can have 20 in hand. If he doesn't have cores or spirits on the board, he's just going to lose to the aggression that George is presenting. So goes back to George's turn. He goes ahead and plays a Buffalo Long Bill. Buffalo Long Bill is an interesting card that says that when you go ahead and block with this character, you can bounce a spirit with a cost of 5 or less. And he's going to pass. He's a very hefty cost in the white deck. The white aggro deck plays very few top end cards, and Buffalo Long Bill is a weird top end card. Weird top end card. So passes it back to Fernando. Fernando gets to refresh his turn with all of his cores active and his spirits in play. So this is a really solid turn. We do have the Fulla. We have a little baby dinosaur because he no longer has 2 spirits or less in play. And we have the big white elephant. So if we're able to just set up a couple of spirits here and some sort of cards to go ahead and like cycle, then we should be fine. Gonna go ahead and play the Volcanic Canyon. Volcanic Canyon, just another red Nexus to set up, and then he's gonna go ahead and play the Snow Flaken and attach another core to the Flaken and 1 core to the Canyon. So all of his dudes are pretty darn big. There's also something to note that if the if the Mecha Beast Fortress Namengard has 2 cores on it, you can perform your refresh step after your attack step. So you can go ahead and swing with your cards and then aggressively refresh again if you wanted to. But he opted not to. I mean, he needs his cards in defense, and I guess like in a blocking position to be able to go ahead and push. So let's see. Gets another. George goes ahead and passes. He tries to play the Burning Force, but I guess he opts not to. Yeah, maybe a little mistakey poo there. Yeah. Kind of tough. It's kind of a tough scenario to be in. He just kind of needs to buy himself one more turn. The Buffalong Bill here having infinite cores on it is kind of funny because it could just block anything. He opts not to block the Namengard, because if he blocks the Namengard, he would go ahead and draw 3 cards, ram 3 cores, and then that would give him a lot of potential for just vomiting onto the board. But George is really looking for a specific card, specifically that guy. That's why he was so excited when he drew it, because the Dual Gun Mech Lord Dermdyna is going to go ahead and make his characters unblockable. And even though Fernando has the Dream Bomb, the fact that there are 2 Nexuses in play is a mistake, because it makes it so that 2 characters are unblockable. And even though he can bounce the Dual Gun, he can't stop the Buffalong Bill from coming in and taking him to the top of the hill. So that's going to be it for today's Battle Spirits Saga gameplay video. It looks like Mono White Aggro is able to take it, but very solid game. A lot of Battle Spirits content coming for you guys very, very soon. And I hope you guys enjoy it, and we'll see y'all on the next one. Later.